Good morning, good morning, good
Morning.
morning.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Happy Monday. I want to say it is the last Monday of March. I can't believe I'm saying that. The last Monday of March, the end of the first quarter, and we are here. We made it, y'all. Woo.
Yes. Barely, but yes.
By the hair of our
Barely,
chinny chin chin, honey. We are here.
barely, but we did make it. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the iWin Morning Show. We are
Good
super
morning.
excited to be here. And it is I, Professor JBA, and Tonya
I
and
was not
Dr.
expecting to
Dani.
see you this morning. I was so shocked to see your background because,
You see my background?
I know,
honey,
right?
but you were still playing in the snow.
I like to go outside and play in the snow every now and then too, guys.
And
But
I'm
yes,
like, everybody from up that way, even my Chicago family, because I was talking about how pretty the weather was. They were like, "Have you seen our weather? We don't want to hear that."
Right.
No, they were like, "It snowed here." I said, "Shut up." Oh my God. It just makes
but
me
it was so beautiful. I
so
was like, major shout out to Emily from NPU. She made an amazing hat for me. And I wore it one time and I told her, I said, hey, I wore the hat, but I didn't take a picture of it. So I was like,
oh,
well, maybe next season, I'll get a
you
chance
pulled
to,
your head out.
I'll be
Right.
able to wear it. And when I said, oh, it's snow, I said, okay, well, I get to wear this hat again. Super dope,
Emily
right?
is a
So,
woman of many talents. I love Emily. She is very
yes,
talented. I did not know that crocheting or is it knitted? I didn't know that was one of her many talents.
listen, NPU has simply the best. I'm so thankful for Emily and being connected, guys. Get you an Emily if you don't have one. Sorry, but hey, listen, we are
Not
super
get you
thankful to
Emily.
have Emily, and I am super thankful to have an iWin team. So I gotta say, this is gonna be a powerhouse conversation this morning. I want to get straight into Jay's corner so we can have as much time as possible
Yeah.
for this morning's conversation. But before I do anything, please like, share, subscribe to educational entities to get connected to all of the amazing things that we're doing. Now, Jay's Corner this morning, y'all. Jay's Corner. I am super excited to be back with everyone. I got to say this. For the month of March, everybody knows I have been on here talking about our walk run forever, right? Well, Saturday, I was out of town, but it also rained that morning. So we have rescheduled the walk and run. I mean, that's amazing, right? It's going to be the third weekend in April. You'll get more details. I am going to say that I still want 50 people or more to come out. We are raising awareness for healthy hearts. So that's my message for Jay's Corner this morning. It's Healthy Heart Awareness. No, it's not Healthy Heart Awareness Month, but it should be for everybody every month. This is super, super, super important. I am going to encourage everyone to sign up on our website. We are asking for donations for $25. However, I also am going to say that the American Heart Association is going to I'm going to speak it into existence that they are going to partner with us, especially since this is such a huge issue in the African American community. And it is also an election year. And everybody wants to talk about Black issues. Well, health and wellness is a major concern. So let's make sure that we get the community its support. But that is the walk and run that's coming up in April. It's been rescheduled. Make sure you get your walking shoes ready. I'm calling on Dr. Dani. You come on out. Bring our nephew. Bring your dad. Tanya, bring your mom. Bring the village. I want everybody to come out. It's going to be a good time. We're going to walk. Some people will run. We're going to have a Black-owned coffee business out to support the work. And we're also going to have people to provide health and wellness resources. So again, that's what I wanted to focus in on this morning for Jay's Corner. Our health and our wellness is super, super important. And with that being said, I know that some of us barely made it throughout the last week. We're talking about the first quarter. So if you have had any time struggling through life, period. Just anything that we're battling and facing with life. Let me tell you one of the things that does keep me going. And that is knowing that coming up next is Dr. Dani Speaks, because these affirmations are not just motivation, but it is life changing. So, Dr. Dani, take
Yeah.
it away with Dr. Dani Speaks.
Well, good morning, everybody. If y'all don't know Marvin Sapp, y'all need to know him because that never would have made it.
Never.
Okay, I'm telling you, March is doing the most already, but we are almost out of it.
March is marching
Hallelujah.
all over us, honey.
You gotta
Okay,
have that cry with it too, like never.
that's right. That's right. And you gonna make it. You might barely make it, but you gonna make it. Okay. I'm gonna tell you, Dr. Danny has really been feeling quite determined. I have tapped into my superpower
Come
of
on, girl.
determination. And it's not about being optimistic. I'm just determined whether I'm going to lose, win, whatever. I am still going to be determined no matter what. So I want to encourage y'all today. And as I'm doing this affirmation, I am wearing my superpower Wonder Woman. That's
Okay.
right.
Wonder
My bracelet
Woman.
today because I am going to really inspire you all to be determined today. All right.
I love it.
So, with that being said, here is the affirmation. My determination is powerful enough to outweigh any possible defeat. My determination is powerful enough to outweigh any possible defeat. That is the affirmation for today.
I love
I
that.
love it. I love it. I love it. And we also had your back in the background. We never would have made it. Like we were gonna really come in and like we had your back because I understand. Dr. Dani, thank you so much for this morning's words. I always love collecting these, and you know, if you're a little nerd like myself, you got your little notepad beside you, and I wrote it down. God bless my chicken scratch this morning. All right, Dr. Dani has spoke. I have given you guys some updates from Jay's Corner, and y'all already know that
Time.
it is time for Tonya to bring us the tea before we get into our conversation. So, Tonya, take it away.
My cup today says, love ya, mean it. Dr. Dani, first of all, thank you for that. An affirmation about determination, right? No, you rhymed. It was on time, and we thank God. No, I'm just kidding. There is really just tea in this cup, I promise you. Grass and peppermint, baby. But I want to, first of all, we're going to start with some little celebrity news, little tea. Do y'all know it is this makes the 20-year anniversary of Usher's, one of his most
Yeah,
famous
that's one of
albums,
my
baby.
Wow.
Just when I thought I had, yeah, Confessions. So if you need, if the affirmation of determination led you to have a confession, then baby, lay it all on the altar. Not here. Don't put it in the comments, but you know what you need to do. Because some of y'all do need to confess. Also, at 92, one of the ladies that, and I just looked in here, Myra Payne Elliott, was one of the Atlanta civil rights pioneer Myra Payne Elliott, who brought down segregation in Georgia colleges, university, turns 92.
Wow.
So we want to give her a good old shout out and a happy birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, something has got some of y'all in a chokehold that they released on the 21st, baby. The footage of the Freaknik footage. Some of y'all didn't go to church Sunday. I know you did. Because y'all because baby, now Dr. Dani, this is when we can cue Marvin Sapp. Never would have made it. Baby, some of y'all ain't gonna make it out of this this Freaknik footage alive.
It's the same people though. It's like 5 people they kept focusing on.
Them 5 know who they are. Baby, I know those 5 are like, I know good and well, y'all could have focused. Y'all said y'all had thousands of documentaries and footage, stuff people sent y'all. Baby, was it just for these 5 people? So I wanted to say that. And then lastly, if you are, and then a little local news, just local. Over the weekend, Mayor Andre Dickens filmed himself as they were tearing down the Forest Cove projects, um, housing tenement, as some would like to say, projects in Thomasville Heights. And this has been locally, if people are watching us nationally, such a topic um, of discussion here in Atlanta, in the state of Georgia, because it was so terribly kept up by a company named Millennia, who has been massive slumlords across the country. And people were living with rats the size of cats, mold, black mold, all types of just horrific conditions. And these are families that I've worked with for over the last year and advocated on behalf of. And so those were finally torn down. And it's been a big topic of discussion as housing is a really, really huge issue in Atlanta. And then lastly, and I did steal all my tea today from the news, upcoming, you're going to be able to see a March's full moon, referred to as the worm moon by the Farmer's Almanac, due to its proximity to the spring equinox, will be at its fullest at 3 a.m. Um, Eastern Standard Time. And I want to say it's today. So I don't know if this just happened or not. Y'all forgive me. But anyway, the moon is pretty. Spring is full of, we have a lunar eclipse in spring. Spring is a time for us to be born anew. Dr. Dani talked about March and how it has marched, and I do mean trampled, all over some of us. It has also been Women's Month. And with that, that's Tonya with the tea. Now, I got up late this morning, y'all, so don't charge it to my head and not my heart, or maybe my pillow. Oh, I had pillow this weekend. I had sage all weekend, and baby, you took us about marching all over you.
Can we just acknowledge, though? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, let's acknowledge some of the awesome holidays. I know March kicked our butts, but March is also like the beginning of great holidays. So I want to say happy Holy Week to all of our Christians. It's, you know, that time where we get in the, Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday,
yes.
And then we have happy Ramadan going on. Hey, for those who are fasting, hold on. It's almost over, y'all. Then for our Jewish people, happy Purim. So I just wanted to put those out there. And for those who survived this past weekend, happy I survived the documentary of Freaknik. Yes! Congratulations.
Y'all dodged a bullet. Pew, pew.
It's so much to the documentary. Just, we were marked safe. Growing up on MLK, I said, oh my God. Now, there's a very famous picture, but I don't even have to explain it or go over it because it didn't make the documentary. So praise the Lord. But if you know, on MLK where I grew up, there's a very famous railroad track that is known as the Beltline. That if you were up there, it oversees the city and the AUC. And it was a wonderful hangout spot for us as teenagers. So I thank God that they decided not to put every picture and clip in there, because some of us would have been like, "Now I'm just walking down the street. Now, how I get in this? How am I in this? Lord, help us." But the documentary.
My kids asked me about it. I said, "Baby, I was married with one child and one in my belly
and traveling the world. I want in there, but they gave some history to it. But we will leave that for another day on another show, guys. Listen, on today. I love Alicia Keys. We know we just saw her performing with us in February, but she, has a song that is like in the forefront of most people's minds, which is A Woman's Worth. And that's what we're talking about on this morning. So go ahead and get all your sisters, brothers, cousins, aunties tagged into this conversation this morning, because we are going to be talking about how does a woman's worth impact business and personal relationships, specifically around equity and pay in the workforce for women. And we have some powerhouses that are joining us this morning. I'm super excited. We have our sister Terra Gay, who is returning.
Yes.
We've had Terra on before. We love Terra, and she is no stranger. Major shout out to Terra. She also has been one of the speakers on the National Parents Union Let's Get Real town hall series. As a matter of fact, she was one of our very first speakers when my former teammate and I, we built it out and we were like, we're going to start it. Terra was one of our first guests, and she was a powerhouse. And she was very popular because she had a lot of people still wanting to connect with her afterwards. So major shout out to Terra. So glad to have her back. But speaking of NPU, I had to, get inspired by the snow and go all the way up to the D to Detroit and bring Bernita on this morning. We love her. She is a phenomenal sister, and has a lot to offer in the space. So I know this is Bernita's very first time with us. I'm going to back myself on out, and Bernita, we'll give you a few moments to introduce yourself so we can get right into the conversation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bernita Bradley. I am the Director of Parent Voice for the National Parents Union. Just happy to be here, happy to talk about anything that one gives parents and mostly important for me, Black women, the power to navigate what equity and choice looks like in this community and nationally. Making sure that families know that we got to speak up, we got to stand up, we have to be readily available to make sure we're making the change that our community see needs to be changed. And so I'm just honored to be here today.
I love that.
Hey, good morning.
Got you.
Yeah.
Power, the power.
Yeah, and let me just say this too, guys. National Parents Union, a lot of people think like, oh, they're just like in the schools and in classrooms. NPU is everywhere. Housing justice, environmental justice. You think about it, we're there. We are present. So make sure you hit up nationalparentsunion.org and join us today. That's it for me. Tonya, Dr. Dani, I'm going to let you kick us off. This is the last show for March and Women's History Month. Let's go.
Let's go.
I mean, I would first love to know a little bit more about what comes to mind for you all when you think of the power of a woman. Like what?
Oh, that's good.
What comes to mind?
So good morning, everyone. I heard you all lamenting on March, and those who know me know that this is when I shine the most because my birthday is in March. So I literally celebrate all month long. So I tell people it is the reign of Terra.
I like it. I like it.
Love it.
What happens in March. And so it is one of those times that I actually am able to tap into what it is to be who I am as a woman. Interesting enough for this topic, I'm actually currently writing a chapter on a book, talking in a book of other phenomenal Black women, just about the experience of Black women. So I was writing last night, part of my chapter. And I would think, when I think about the journey to womanhood, I think it certainly is vastly different depending on the woman and what parts they are influenced by, who they are influenced by. I would say for myself as a Black woman and a proud Black woman, the journey has not always been easy. I think I may have mentioned on this platform before, my girlfriends and I developed accidentally, quite honestly, a podcast called The Weight of the Cape. And it was really looking at what it is to be a Black woman and the weight that comes with that, the burden of people thinking you are beyond human powers, the ability that people think that you have to endure pain, to sometimes not even be recognized for actually having your own pain. So to be a Black woman and to be a woman, period, is to understand that people will constantly be asking of you to give of yourself when they make no room for yourself to sometimes fully exist. And so that is the challenge that I have faced as a woman. And it is what I work so hard to try to shift for younger Black women in particular, so that they are also not burdened with that same weight. Because although people think that it's a glorious thing to be talked about and to say, oh, Black girl magic, well, that makes it as if we are things of illusion. And quite often what eludes us is the ability to just be seen as whole human beings. And so although I understand the intent behind the saying Black girl magic, and in terms of it serving as inspiration, what I think it also does is unconsciously makes us feel as though the greatest gift that we have is to disappear from people's thoughts and their considerations for our humanity.
Awesome.
Dr.
Awesome.
Danny, what comes to mind for me is off the top of my head, motherhood, because within in that hood, that neighborhood, um, women are naturally nurturers and mothers of everything. We give birth to children, we give birth to movements, we give birth to ideas, conglomerations, businesses, and the like. And so, in that mother, I can put a parentheses around the M and say others, mothers and others. And that's all the women who may not have given birth to a child of their own, but they've given birth to these great and amazing ideas that have become platforms for this country. Every movement that we know of um, has been strongly supported, started along with, or right beside, or on the backs of women who, more often, when you think about all the movements, civil rights movement, some of the greater movements, the marches, you think about these women who were also mothers and aunties and had all of this responsibility, and yet they still pushed on and took that nurturing to nurturing a nation in a time of need. So what comes to mind, as I am a mother myself of three sons and a grandmother, is the strength and the power that's packed into motherhood. And my sister Terra said it all. Um, Saying "Black girl magic" became such a thing, and it's a beautiful term coined, but it also began to add to the fact that we have become, um, in my mother's garden, Alice Walker says that we were the mules of the world, right? And so that is also, it just kind of alludes to, oh, we had this magic and we're magical, so we're an illusion. And when you can perform magic, you can do anything. And that gives way to so many other stereotypes at the same time meant to be empowering.
Mm. All right. Jason or Bernita?
I guess I'll go. Yeah. So what it makes me think of is my grandmother, my great grandmother, and the women who came before me, and who weren't quite the woman who was just being sitting around being, kind of like proper
Mm-hmm.
and mannerable, but the women who forged a new path for our family um, through so many different ways. I think about my great grandmother who ran a juke joint, right? Like being a woman means you're a survivor on so many levels.
Mhm.
My great grandmother was during the Depression, sold other things to barter with her bartered with her community for sugar to make hooch liquor
Mm.
to go into her juke joint to to have card parties and pay for people rent and
Come on,
pay
Granny.
those people when their lights were about to be cut off, or feed the whole block. And when she moved to Detroit, how she bought a old motel that was used to be like a smaller motel, and one level she sold some of everything, some unmentionables. The other level was for her family, and the other level was a boarding house. And we don't talk often about those moms or those women who some might say were kind of like the unpleasant ones, but they were the thrivers. They were the reasons why we live today. And then even thinking about my grandmama who sold numbers to actually make her family um, thrive, and who I ended up finding out later on could not read very well, but I guarantee you wasn't about to jip my grandmama. My grandmama fed hundreds of thousands of people in Detroit over the course of her life. And there wasn't a soul that wouldn't come to her rescue if she needed it. But she came to so many different people rescue. And so those are the people that fuel me to do the work that I do,
Mhm.
and to make sure that more women are empowered. And I don't even like using the word empowered, but more women know how to use the power we naturally encompass, because the power that we were birthed with is something that most people don't even understand, and as a Black woman, most people can't even conceive. So that's what it means to me.
Wow. Great story.
Wow.
Jason, we got to get the male
I love
perspective.
it.
Yeah.
I
Honey.
I love the conversation, hearing it from women. A lot of times we again make the assumptions, right? It's a man's world, so we know that men too often have defined things. Um, and I think that women need to have space to define these things. So I'm learning a lot. I'm loving to hear the experiences and my role in the conversation. I have tagged in uh, women that I know to share in the conversation. So that's my role. I'm kicking it back to you guys.
When you think of women's history, what do you think of, brother?
Oh, okay. Now to answer the question, since Danny gonna make me answer the question. When I think
And
of
is.
women's history, of course, I automatically think of uh, Lily Mae Allen, and I think of Lily Geraldine, and I think of Carolyn Ann, and I think of Miss Cheryl. I think of Miss Odessa. I think of Shirley Rose and all of the ancestors and women who are represented in my garden that are no longer physically here with us, but their prayers are with us. I also will say that I had a really good conversation with my neighbor, Miss Dot. So you guys know that um, in the morning times, early in the mornings, I would be up um, and I would be praying. And Miss Dot's mother lived to be 102 years old, y'all. And she passed away, but her spirit still meets me out of my garden. It's the power of women, the connections that um, you all have to our foundations is so powerful. We had Ashara, major shout out to Ashara Baker, our New York state director this week was engaging men. We're trying to build this work, and a lot of brothers had to say that they could not do anything without the love of their wives, their sisters, their moms, the people who are connected to them. And so that's what women's history really is, understanding the power and the foundation that women play in technically everything that we do, and realizing that that respect level is not there for women. So that's why I'm trying to yield the floor to you guys to share more of why we should be valuing a woman's worth. All right, that's my 2 cents. Rest in peace, Miss Dot.
Yes.
Miss Dot.
Yes.
That really speaks to what I was saying about women as nurturers, right? And even coming back in spirit and being supportive in that way, the way many of us call on, so many of the, excuse me, so many of the songs when you're talking about different things. I'm so glad I had a praying mama, and the roles that even in the church and the clergy that women have played. And so, Jason, thank you for sharing that, because, our ancestors do come back to see, visit, and support us in that manner. You made me think about when you started naming, and Bernita made me think about the many great women in my family. There were 9 siblings, and it was 5 girls in my mother's family. And so, I love, as I've grown, to be able to see my mother and my aunts and my grandmother in each of them a part of me, right? And I get to see that. And so, just thank you for sharing that. I got a little emotional myself, but for people who don't, sometimes I've been able to roll my grief up and tuck it inside of prayer, right? Tuck it inside of asking my ancestors just sit with me and be with me. And it helps that grief that is really just trapped love that can't go anywhere. It helps it to be more soothing than aggravating. So, yeah, thank
That
you.
is the quote of the year. Thanks, Regina King, for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen, strong women are, I mean, we're so strong and resilient. And it's women amaze me every single day. I work for an all-female led startup nonprofit. Women amaze me every single day that I breathe air. Humans, beings, the family. I think Black women um, are just the most magnificent creatures that God could ever make. And you're welcome, Dr. Danny.
Benita is saying something.
You,
Appreciate.
oh yeah,
Oh, am I muted?
you off
Yeah,
now.
you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us don't appreciate one another as women. We got this running myth that women walk around and call one another bees all day long, and hey, what's up, bee? And I'm sitting up like I don't have a friend on this side of the planet call me a bee like on a regular basis, and the image that we have of black women and how we communicate with one another with these false reality shows that's out of women walking around all day long, we sleeping with one another husbands and throwing liquor in one another's face and fighting on stages.
It's
I'm like,
trash.
y'all know how many women are out here fighting battles to make sure that we can just thrive and live and exist and show up in our full selves. Like, show those women. Quit showing this false analogy of what a black woman is and what it looked like when you finally arrive and become a woman. Because I can just about guarantee you most of those women aren't living like that off the camera. They're portraying this image of foolery that does not represent anything we do as women, because women are the reason why families stay together. Women are the reason why men sometimes don't go crazy. Women are the reason why children can go
She's
to
preaching.
school and be safe. Women are the reason why babies are birthed and kept whole when mamas may be going through something emotionally after they had those babies. And
Mm.
it's not to, when we speak of women and when we speak of black women, don't feel like we're excluding you, because everything in the heart of a black woman is about you.
Mm,
Everything in the motions and motivations of a black woman is about her community and her men and her children and her mom and her daddy. Even the black women. I tell people, my father was not there for me growing up. He was an addict, and I had to forgive him and learn even as a young child. I never disrespected my father, not one day, because of the choices he made. But that was because of the woman in me as a young girl recognized that there was something that led him to be the type of person he was.
Wow.
So just really love on women, and appreciate where we come from when we speak, because too often now there's the analogy that when a woman speaks, like, oh, here she goes, she the angry black woman. Well, guess what? I'm okay with being an angry black woman if it means I'm getting something done for my people.
true, true, true. So let's talk. Oh, go ahead, Tara.
No, I was just going to say to that point, though, as you were talking about equity and this idea around equity, two other phenomenal sisters and I happen to host a equity institute where we look at art as a form of activism. Uh, and that's Adria Kitchens and Cicely Garrett. And we talk about, and as a part of that, Dr. Deidre Hawkins also asks everybody who's a part of that cohort to think about how they will amplify or celebrate Black women. And most of the times, it's not just Black women who are in those sessions. They are most often white women who are signed up to be a part of that. And I think it is important that we continue to ask people to think about how do we stand up for Black women, because when we look at the history of the contributions of Black women to the liberation of so many other communities, we are the last to be the ones that people will be willing to stand up for to ensure that we have greater equity when it comes to compensation, equity when it comes to health, and all the other things that we've started to talk about here today. And so I would just ask today, as a challenge to everybody who is watching, people who will watch later, if you have an opportunity to amplify, celebrate, or stand up for a Black woman in your community, I would encourage you to find at least 5 that are worth
Yes.
celebrating, that are worth being champions for, that are worth compensating them for, and making sure that they have what they need. Because so often, I assure you, in the midnight hours we talked about, in those praying hours, we are praying for communities to have all the things that they need. And we just ask that you all stand up for us as well.
Mm,
Mm.
yes, I love the action item.
Now, if you
So we
didn't go
all
to church
agree that women
yesterday,
are powerful.
yeah,
Yeah, we all agree that women are powerful, but we are lacking in powerful positions still in 2024. So I've got a little bit of some stats I want to share from Pew
come on, Dr. Dean.
Research. All
All
right,
right.
so the percentage of U.S. representatives who are women are only still 30%.
Wow.
30%. Women in state legislator positions are 30%. That's right, only 30%. We're in 2024, y'all. Women governors, as of 2023, we are under 30%, around 25.
Mm-hmm.
Women in the U.S. cabinet, at the highest, we are nearly 50%. Why am I sharing these? Because we need to vote for women. We talk about voting for people of color, but we also need to vote for women in the House, y'all, because when we're talking about MPU, decisions being made, things that impact all of us, it's
Yeah.
because we are lacking in representation of women in these positions.
I agree.
Our
It's,
votes
I agree.
matter.
and our votes do matter, and we need to do the research of the people that we're voting for. But along with that, when we talk about equity, do you all know from between the pandemic to the start of the pandemic until now, women entrepreneurs have become the number one entrepreneur, outperforming men to the tune of about 48% of all entrepreneurs are women. So 48% of the population that started entrepreneurship during that time were women, and only 17% of those were males,
Yeah.
right? And one of the leading reasons, Dr. Dani, Terra, Bernita, Jason, that women started their own businesses was because of the opportunity gaps and the pay
Mm-hmm.
gaps
Yeah.
in jobs from CEOs down to CEOs, honey. And everybody was feeling that they were not engaged, involved, they were not being paid well, they were not being treated well. And so women said, to hell with that, I'm gonna start my own business. And so Black women are the leading entrepreneurs out of every race of women. And we're talking about women today. They're the pay. There should not be a need to pass a Paycheck Fairness Act. There should not be a fight for us to still be fighting across the country for minimum wage to be $15. It really needs to be $20 at this point. But 15, we're fighting to get 15. We're still paying folks $7.90 in some of these states, right? $7 to minimum wage. And so the fight just continues, because you come to women for everything to save the day. But then
True.
when there's time to pay for the day savings, there's no room for us. And so, to what you were saying, Dr. Dani, in politics, even in education, I feel like that's one of the lower performing um, jobs. They don't see the value in it because women are the leaders. Most women are teaching. So the patriarchy doesn't even see the value in what we're doing because it is a field that is led mostly by women.
That
And
is
I
great.
just want
That's
to
great.
echo. I'm sorry, Jason. I just
No,
want
no,
to
no.
echo when
No.
she said CE knows. I think what it also
God damn it.
reminds me of how many women, especially Black women, because I know people love to say women of color, but I'm talking about Black women today because women of color
Yes.
don't always operate in a way that supports Black women. And so
Mm,
when I'm talking about women, I'm talking about Black women who sit in positions that are titles that are baseless titles that support a company in the appearance of having women in leadership roles, but they
Yeah.
are positions that are only entitled, but they are not garnered with the kind of power and the recognition of the skill sets that that Black woman brings to the table. She is often second guessed. She is often jumping through hoops that other people are not required to. She is often required to hire people who do not even have the qualifications that she possesses,
Yeah.
and then make them have titles that are almost comparable to hers, and they will function in power where her position will still have to yield to their thoughts and
mm,
their opinions about her skill set. And so
Yeah.
mm,
I'm
again, I
preaching.
want us to also be very clear that language is powerful as well. And so we need to be very clear when we are talking about women in positions of power. They need to be women who are out able to stand in their power. And Bernita, you mentioned not liking the term empower. I don't use that either. I say in power because that sister came with her own power. It is this idea that you are somehow sharing power or gifting her some of the power that you
mm,
have. That's what empowering is all about. But if I
Yeah.
recognize she was already powerful when she got here, then all I do is move out of the way and allow her to stand in her power, not empowering her in any kind of way. And so I do think that All of those things become critically important as we kind of move forward and really think about the roles and the opportunities that exist for the next generation of Black girls. It is power in the tongue. And so I don't have a friend either, Bernita, that refers to me as a bitch, at least certainly not to my face, because then we probably wouldn't be friends. But I do not understand how we have moved to this place where we have allowed people who are outside of our communities, because let's be very honest, most of these people who are existing on reality TV shows are cultivating a reality that does not exist for them outside of those shows, but they are also being produced by people who don't look like them. And so it's to carry forth a narrative of who we are, even when we are supposedly in positions of power, this is still how we conduct ourselves. We know very much that that is not how our communities operate. It is not how we as Black women operate with each other. And for those who are doing it, I would implore you to think about what shifts in your consciousness when language becomes a part of things that you use without thought. You actually will begin to act in the way that the word was intended, even when you thought it had another meaning or you've given it another meaning. I heard you all talking about the documentary on Freaknik. The reality is, for most of us who started with Freaknik, and I knew I wasn't going to be on tape because I was never one of those who was doing anything but enjoying Black people.
Yeah.
When we look at the transition, it was also about how do we commodify the Black woman's body versus how to celebrate and amplify the joy of Black people being able to come together. That is what shifted culturally for us. And we thought that our music didn't have an impact. We thought our films wouldn't impact us. But we see now a generation that is operating on what happens when the conscious gets separated from the spirit and you just keep moving forward as if there are no consequences to the choices that we make with our language and our actions. We have to get better as a people because, again, we are beyond fighting for freedom. Liberation requires a whole nother level of consciousness that we have to move to. And I think Black women are the very ones who will lead us there.
Listen, yeah.
Where's the collection plate? Because
Right.
the doors of the church are open.
Right.
Listen, I'm here,
Yeah.
and I will be right there, standing beside. How can I help? Because I think that also needs to be a space that's open. Not here's what needs to be done, or you need to. Simple, brothers. How can I help? That's it. That's the. I'm trying to model that too. Like, hey, I heard everything you just said. How can I help?
Yeah.
How can I best support? And I'm doing this intentionally, thinking back to Ashara's event this weekend with dads. And that was a barrier that we had to break down as men. Like, even when you're listening to the women in your life, what do you do next? The next thing should be, how do I help? How can I correct? How can I help build? Not, okay, let me tell you what I think should be done from listening to you. And so, brothers, it's very simple. How can I help should be the follow-up to after you listen and are intentional about hearing the hearts of the women in your life.
And I'll say this, Jason, like, you can tell a man that walks in tandem with his woman. You can tell a man or his mate, right? They actually even look different. I mean, women on here, like, help me talk about this, because you can tell when a man's really you can look at a man and be like, oh, he married, and he married to a good, like, as opposed to looking at a man who's married and like, oh, po thing, like something ain't right in your household. You know, there's a saying, they say happy life, happy wife, or
that's it,
or whatever, right? You know, but you can tell in their demeanor and everything, because when a man is responsive to his wife or his mate, they have a different turnout with everything in life. Like, their household is ran different, their children are ran different. Like, it becomes this unified front that's really hard to penetrate. It really is. And that's not a man like bagging down saying, okay, I'm a wimp. That's a man acknowledging who's right at the moment, right? Because it could be plenty of different conversations that you having or issues that's coming up in your household. But if when that woman is right, she's right. And the other thing is, when that woman knows she's wrong, when she got a good man, she's gonna concede then, because she knows she wrong and she knows she need his help in something, right? So I don't know. But when I just want people to really think about the order of life, and it's not that a man is over a woman or a woman's over. Like, women are powerful, and understand
Hmm.
that we can be utilized for the purpose of our power, or we can be utilized to use our power against you, and you really don't want us to use our power against you.
Bernita, I
You're
love
right.
that you brought
Right.
that, you centered that back to the family, right?
Yes.
Because it is powerful, and you can look at a man or a woman and tell when they are in lockstep with their mate, and if that it's a helpmate, right? And not a whatever else this is what we're calling, because that's what it's designed to be. Marriage is a business, and in that business you are in partnership with someone, or whatever commitments, family structures are businesses. And that comes back all the way from when, before we got to this country. People talk about so many times, and I'm saying that because the family unit is a business, and you can tell
Yep.
when people, one of my favorite couples, and I don't have to reach far to look at, is are the Allens, and that's Jason's parents. For the almost 15 years that I've known them, um, I know what real love looks like. I know
Mhm.
what partnership looks like. Helping in business, raising a family, inviting people into that family. You can't invite folks in your home and be fake for 15 years, right? There's got to be some authenticity there, right?
Mhm.
And so that genuine love that you see in that partnership, the way they interact with each other. And I'll say, the saying used to always be, behind every good man, there's a good woman. I want to say, beside every good woman, there is another good partner, be they man or woman. There's a partner there that these women that are out front many times, and sometimes not. Sometimes the partnership is the village, it's other
Yeah.
girlfriends, because there might not be a partner there. But I agree with you, Bernita. When we have a good family structure in place, we're winning already. And you're able to be motivated to go out and do the things that you're able to do. You're able to stand sometimes in your power. Because when you waver, when you fall back, it's somebody right there that says, I know you weak. I know you weary. I have you. And I think for those women who don't have that, um, whether they're able to have it, want to, or long to, it would be nice to have. I know that
Yeah.
they think sometimes it just would be nice to have this person here, for that. And so, like I said, standing on business, marriage is a business.
Yeah.
We don't look at it like that. It's a partnership. It's a commitment between individuals to be supportive, and I love that. Um, yeah, that's my
I
stake on it.
love that.
So
I
Terry,
was going to just add to that, lots of sacrifice that
yes,
goes into the role that women play in relationships. And I mean, even, because they're my parents, I can touch on that. Having a black gay son is not easy. We've seen it in our family where, people have not been able to show up as themselves, which is why we have still to this day on the roster men that are missing in our family and
Mm.
they were never found. Why did they leave? Well, there were reasons why they were left, because by our faith, by our position in community, they chose to love someone who did not align with what our tradition had taught us, that you have to love in this way. And so, I commend the role that women play, because people will say, well, it's a generational curse, but I think that it's the impactful and unconditional love that women have, because it was my mom to say, no, not my child. We're not throwing away my child. My child is not going to be the one that goes away for 10 or 15 years and we don't see or hear from you. Not my child that's going to be, conditioned or condoned to the streets and strung out on drugs and, left to just fend for himself. My mom made a conscious decision, and I'm sharing this because there are so many black women in particular who are having to make this decision, and it is destroying their marriages,
Mm.
because dads are like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with this, and I'm not going to accept that my child is this way. Moms are there in spite of. I'm not saying the dads aren't, because my dad clearly is, but it also took the love of my mom to say, all right, but not this one. And so I wanted to highlight again that women are the foundation. They are the backbone that even in correction, they help us to take corrective actions to do the right thing. So Terra, I'll pass the mic to you, but I had to I wanted to highlight the sacrifice of women from what I've seen. Because I know that when I look at the numbers of Black and brown children that are displaced from homes, we don't talk about this, but there are 70% of our kids that are homeless, and they're coming from two-parent households. A lot of these kids identify as LGBTQ plus. So Black women are doing their parts while their hearts are also being broken, because they're seeing that I have to make these decisions. Do I keep my family together? Do I keep my unit together? Do I keep my husband, or do I keep my partner? And what does this look like for our family? So it's a lot of sacrifices that I know we don't have all the time to go into it, but we also don't talk about those sacrifices that women make. And it's not just for themselves, the sacrifices that they're making for others, because they understand family in that unit, but that impact and that sacrifice still impacts them, solely more than others.
That's a part too with these powerhouse women, to come back when we talk about the sacrifice in relationships that women make.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Tara, I know Jason pivoted the mic to you, and if either of you want to comment on what Jason said as well, but also want us to get to, before we leave today, everything that you all were saying about women in leadership. And Tara, the thing about language and changing language, honey, where is that written down? Because baby, that needs to become one of that's the 11th commandment right there. But what now, when we're talking about equity and women and Black women, what does all this reversal of diversity and inclusion mean? What now do we face on the road ahead, and how do we get past all of that?
That's a good way to close us out too, Tanya. That's perfect. Go ahead, Terra, and then we're gonna hear from Bernita.
Yeah. So one quick thing when you ask, and I'm going to come to your question too, Tanya. When you said what are the things that men can do, I don't think that the work is that as hard as sometimes men think it is. Sometimes it's the small gestures. It is just the recognizing that you see me. It is the man who actually chooses to step and walk on the outer side of the street when we're walking together, because of that small gesture indicating that I'm willing to put myself first if harm should come to us. It is the man who recognizes when you change your hairdo and you say and simply compliment that woman, because again, so often we are not seen, that when we have people who are in our lives that are men that have the opportunity to just observe us and then make comments about it in a positive way, I think that is one of the things that men can do. They can protect us in very small ways of, again, just physically putting yourself in a position to be a protector. It is also recognizing and seeing us and acknowledging us. It is what I watch my father do with my mom every single day, talking about how something tastes so good that she cooks, or he talks about how beautiful she is. He seeks to have her, if she leaves the house, to make sure that she doesn't leave it without giving him a kiss, to remind her that your love to me is very important. And so again, I don't want for men to leave this conversation today thinking that it has to be incredible steps towards almost a PhD in understanding womanhood in order for you to do something. There are small ways that you can step in and step up for us that mean the world to us. And in terms of this reversal, I will say for myself, I laughed when we first got, and I say laugh in a way that was the broken-hearted laugh. Because when George Floyd's death happened and you had all these statements around what people were going to step up and do, I began to set my clock then. I said, and we got about 30 days before people stop caring about and about us as a people. So we better be preparing ourselves for when they go back and they realize I no longer have to care about you. And that is where we are. We are back to where people were, where it is not necessarily going to be condemnation if you don't have a statement that says you understand or support Black Lives Mattering. It is the places that you drive through in communities where people have those signs that say Black Lives Matter, but Black lives can't live here because you can't afford those communities. And so again, I've never taken my eye off the prize of understanding that this work will have a reversal, because people absolutely, when they are not required to consider our needs, our desires, or our just humanity, they will not. And so I have to keep forging forth as if nobody else cares but us. And when that is the case, then I must equip us for understanding what is required for us to ensure that we are taking care of ourselves in a way that is sustainable, and ways in which, again, will create space for the next generation to not have to fight for the same thing that this generation is currently still fighting for, that 40 something years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, we thought we would have had resolution. And
Yeah.
so I always say this: set the time clock. When you see people saying that these are topics and issues, equity was a top hot word. And I said, well, I give you 30 seconds for equity not to matter to people when it costs them something. Because people think equity is going to be just this additive thing that you get to put on top of what already exists. It means you must break down those things because they probably came to existence because equity was not in place. And so, again, it is recognizing that when people understand equity will come at a cost to them, then that is the work that you must do to make them understand that the cost, or what you gain from it, will outweigh what you have to give up in order for you to achieve it. That has been the work that I have continued to be on, because I was never delusional or thinking that post George Floyd that people would keep thinking or wanting to say Black Lives Matter to them, because what they do and how they speak did not match. And so, again, the language was not languaging, as the young people say. It was not happening to
Right.
give me confidence that there was anything about to change about our conditions.
True.
But just the work had to get deeper, and it had to get more really centralized in the way that we are operating as a people.
Yes, I love that. Bernita, we're going to hear from you. Thank you guys for staying tuned in to the iWin Morning Show. We have a lot of people who are still logged on because obviously a woman's worth is a topic of importance. So, Bernita, we're going to pass the mic to you before we close out.
Yeah, so I like to take us back a little bit on, in the 1800s when women talked back
Mm,
to their husbands, and they were put in insane asylums, right?
wow.
Thinking about some of the most egregious things that have happened to women because they stood up. If we don't learn from those past, and we allow the government and policies to keep reeling back on equity and transparency and all of that, we gonna end up in those same spaces. Some people would say like, no, that'll never happen, right? But it happened before, right? It happened before, and it could possibly happen again. Look at some of the conversations we have when we see people like Melania Trump show up next to her husband. People like, do she need a hug? Does she need saving? Like, put up the sign. We'll come up for you, right? People are joking, but yet we're serious because there's people like Donald Trump or people like him who really don't value humanity, period. And if they don't value the humanity of their own wives or the females or the women in their lives, right, then what you think they're going to value about us as women or as Black women, most importantly? Um, and then the other thing I'll say is that unless we unify and realize the power of everything that women have poured into this country, and that without women, this country would not be as far as it is. Like we gonna go out the world half-ass backwards. And it's a very sad commentary when we've done all the fighting that we've done and we
Right.
allow somebody to come in and say, oh, well, we're going to take it all away. Like we could just take it all away in 30 days, right? And we're going to make y'all go back 5 to 20 years from where you started.
Mm,
It's sad. So
it is.
we really got to think about all of that. We really have to think about, men have to think about that. Men have to think about, the take their ego out of the picture and understand again, everything we do as women,
Yeah.
we do for this world. There is no woman that I hang with that I know of that fight just to say I need my nails did and my hair did. We are fighting. Actually, we'll cut the hair off if it's in the way, and we decide this take up too much time of my day. Look at Tanya, like, yep. So we are fighting for the rights of this world to thrive, for our babies to continue to thrive, and to make a better generation. And we just need
Yeah.
y'all to help.
Yep. Everybody plays a role. I love this powerful
Jason, can I just
conversation.
offer
Go
one
ahead,
more
Terry.
thing in homage to my great aunt sis? My great aunt says, and I'll tell this story very quickly. There was a fire that broke out. A lot of people in Alabama, where they lived in the community, had borrowed furniture, or basically leasing furniture from this white-owned furniture store. And there was a fire in this furniture store that burned all the records. And so when he came collecting money for the furniture that was in her house, she said, "No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any of your furniture." He said, "Well, I'm looking at it sits in your house." She said, "Well, show me the records to show that I have the furniture." And he threatened to beat her that day. She had a screen porch and flipped the latch off, and she said, "I tell you what, if you think you can come in here and take it, you pay your way in. You hobo your way in here, and I'm gonna pay your way out." Which means she was willing to stand up and to fight. And she told everybody else in that community, "He has no proof that you leased this furniture, so don't y'all pay him one more dime." That's the tenacity that in a time when she certainly could have been killed for standing up for herself and telling this good white man, as they used to say, for him to pay his way in. She was going to help him. If he hoboed it in, she was going to pay his way out, which meant she had her cue stick in hand and was ready, prepared to fight. That is the fight that we have to step into as Black women today, and be willing to say, "Hey, if you hobo your way in, we gonna help you pay your way out." And that's the fight that I say that we have to be in. And I owe that to the ancestors who were willing to be in that fight. And I will fight to my last breath in the same way for them and for every generation that follows me.
Yes, I love it. And that's what we're doing. And the best way to fight, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and just have to drop this dime. Join the National Parents Union. Connect with us. We're building partnerships. We're bringing parents, communities, teachers, students. They play around with me too long, I'm gonna be bringing in cats, dogs, elephants, doves. Everybody gonna be in the fight. We gonna be Noah's Ark doing this together, because we need everybody. Seriously, we've got to do this for our children and the future. And women have been leading and are leading this movement, and I am super honored and excited to be a part of doing that work with them. So this has been the iWin Morning Show. Terra, Bernita, thank you guys so much for being on with us. Dr. Dani, of course, because y'all know how Black women are. She's on the move, already changing
saving the world.
But I will say, we are getting ready to go into our mid-season break. And I know people are like, mid-season? Yeah, y'all, we've been on since the beginning fall of 2023. So we are going to be taking just a short break. But we will be back with you guys. And we need a nap. We'll be back with you guys in April, towards the latter part of April. But there will be some shows still going at 7:15 a.m. So make sure you tune in, subscribe to educationalentities.com. The students are back. Major shout out to Javon. I gotta say this.
Birthday.
Javon just turned 16 years old, y'all. Ray made a comment in the section about his father, or saying that his dad has if you want to see how successful I am, look at how many people I've helped become successful. When Javon became my student, he was 12 years old. They were like, "Hey, work your magic." You know, they put all the students in my classes like, "These kids have potential, but they need you." 12 years old. He's 16. Started the Students for Equity group. Has a podcast. He is graduating a year early. This is my 17th student who is graduating a year early. So Ray making that statement just goes to show that the work that we're doing, it does impact the future. So I'm sharing all that to say, make sure you stay tuned to Educational Entities, because you're going to see the students. You're going to see the Speak Black Man podcast. I cannot wait till we come back for the iWin Morning Show, so I can share so much more great news that is coming. But this has been our show, y'all. Make sure you subscribe so you can get all of the details of what is coming next. Again,
I know that we want to thank Terra and Bernita so much for joining us this morning. We could have gone on and on with this conversation. Just the gems that are dropped, sharing your own personal stories. I know you all to be two powerhouse women, but now sharing some of your personal family history with us, me just reveling that much more in your energy and in your power as your sister. Thank you all so much. And that last one, I said, great aunt sis was standing on business, and so many that. But if you know our stories and our history, now you see these women before you, and you understand whose shoulders they are standing on for generations, right? And I want to say lastly that speaks to our power as women. It speaks to our power as Black women, because we can only talk about the power of Black women in this way. That's why we're putting it to the forefront. We're speaking on the experiences, our lived experiences of being Black women. So, shout out to all women who are doing the work. But this show is coming from our perspective, and that's why we're leading it with our perspective. But now, I employ you, like Terra said, find 5 women, right? Ask some of the women connected to you that you only know on the surface about the history of which they come from. You'll be amazed.
I love it.
Y'all have a winning week.
Yeah,
Thank
have a
you so
winning
much,
week, y'all.
Thanks for having
Educational
me back.
entities.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks for having
Can't
me.
wait to have you back again. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Hey, have a great week, and we'll see you guys in April. Peace and love, everybody.